Hello and welcome to another episode of Justice for the Missing. My name is Bonnie Anderson, and today I am talking to Yvette, the sister of Jennifer Lynn Fay, who went missing on November 14th, 1989 from Brockton, Massachusetts at the age of 16. Yvette, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Bonnie.
Can you start off by telling us what Jennifer was like as a child?
She was the life of the room wherever she was. There was laughter coming from that room. You can guarantee it. She just had this charisma about her. Everything I can remember was, most of the time, was hilarious that she was doing. I remember a lot of laughs, crying, laughing. She was just very outgoing. She had a lot of friends, a lot of acquaintances. She trusted a lot of people, which I think was her biggest downfall. But she had a lot of faith in a lot of people that she probably shouldn't have. She was just so bubbly, and she loved to let loose and have a good time and make everybody laugh. From day one, that's how she was. My mom tells me, she's 5 years older than me, but my mom told me, when she was a baby, that she was just the best baby, always happy.
So you said you were 5 years younger than Jennifer. How old were you when Jennifer went missing?
I was 11 when she went missing.
What kind of experiences did you share with just you and Jennifer?
Well, she loved music, so we would always watch, MTV and stuff like that. So, or listen to the radio. She embedded Stairway to Heaven into my head. I had to learn every single word of that song. So, yeah, I know that by heart because of her. And I learned it on 8-track. That's how, I guess I'm aging myself here, but we had a huge system in our living room, that one of the old furniture ones that you'd lift up, and there was a record player on it, an 8-track player, a radio. It was cool. But yeah, I learned a lot of the music that I love today from her. We used to always dance to Billy Idol, White Wedding. You know that song, White Wedding? Every time it came on, we would start dancing around the whole living room, jumping around the furniture, like just go nuts, have fun. Yeah, that was my biggest memories with her, was watching MTV.
Good times. Well, thank you for that, Yvette. Can you take us back to the night of November 14th when you last saw Jennifer, and tell us what happened?
The day went on like any other. For the last 2 months of her being back home, because she was at a family member's house. She was back home, going to school, going to work. Everything was fine. That night, she went out to hang out with friends down the street at a so-called party. And I remember she was already babysitting me and my brother. My brother was 4 years old at the time. He was asleep. I don't know where the story comes into play that he was with her, because he was definitely not with her. He was only 4. So he was asleep already, and she had called my cousin Tammy to come over and finish babysitting so that she could go out to her party. By the time Tammy got to the house, Jen had already left. It was only a few minutes, and everything was right down the street. My cousin Tammy was right down the street as well, so it wasn't a big deal. But Jen already went out the door. And then before I had fallen asleep that night, she had came back to the house around 10:30, I believe it was. Probably around 10:15, something like that. But she came back to get a jacket because it was really cold out. And I remember her coming in. I wasn't really asleep yet. So I woke up and got out of bed, and I just begged her. I begged her not to go. I don't know. Something just came over me. I did not want her to leave that night. And now, thinking about back then, how I felt, now it seems to me that I kind of have a bad feeling, like I knew something bad was going to happen and I was never going to see her again. I don't know, but I freaked out.
Jen was babysitting you and your younger brother, Jimmy, who was 4 at the time. Your parents were not home. And then she called your cousin Tammy, who came over to watch you guys. She headed out to the first party. Then she came back home, grabbed is it that black silk jacket that she was?
Yeah, Iron Maiden patch on it.
Yeah, okay. She grabbed her black silk jacket with the patch on it and headed out to the second party.
Yeah, there was a second party, yep.
Mm-hmm. And you also mentioned that your brother was asleep and that there had been some inaccurate information reported out online that your little brother had been with Jennifer at one point in time that evening outside of the house. Basically, what's been posted is that she went to one of her friend's houses, but her friend's mom turned her away. And then it says that Jennifer was later seen at a convenience store with your younger brother. Can you talk?
Yeah, no. Yep, yeah, definitely. No, what happened was when after she came back home to get her jacket, she was never at a friend's house just hanging out. She was, the first part was, was at the first party, and my brother was not with her. He was already in bed. When she came home to go to the second party, that's when she stopped at her friend's house, who was home. She was home. She was supposedly sleeping, which I don't believe that story either. But she was just out with her, so there was no way that she could already just be sleeping unless she was intoxicated or something. I don't know. But I was told that Jen went to her house to go and get her, to go to the second party with her or just hang out. And that her mother said that when she answered the door to Jen, Jen smelled like coffee brandy and that she didn't want her in the house, which that didn't make any sense to me because that's not how Dee Dee was as a mom. Like, I mean, obviously she took care of her child, but she wasn't the best of, parents back in those days. I mean, she's the one that started the whole thing with Jen and Kristen when they were younger. I mean, she was smoking pot with her. She was drinking over there. I mean, it was that type of house. I mean, she only had the one child to take care of. So, I mean, as a teenager, I guess she was more of her friend than her mother. But that's how that started. So that whole story about her turning Jen away and saying that she smelled like alcohol and, oh, this is so bad, that's just a lie. That wouldn't have happened that way. She was at that house umpteen million times.
Okay.
And so was Dee Dee. The mother was also, at my house quite a few times, partying with my parents. So.
Thank you for clarifying that for us. So what do you think happened to Jen after she headed off to that second party?
I'm not sure. I want to say that maybe Jen had, but she was small and petite, and I don't know why, but she did have a big mouth. She couldn't fight at all, but if she felt something had to be said, she was going to say it, and she was going to say it loud. And I feel like a lot of the talk that's been going on, that I've heard that went on back then with her having a big mouth, I feel like something bad had happened. I feel like that she had seen something maybe she wasn't supposed to see, and they took care of her, basically. I've been told by quite a few people that the people that are so-called involved, but I can't say any names because it's still under investigation, but the so-called people involved had done something to her because she had seen something that she wasn't supposed to. I believe. That's what I believe.
Okay. And can you tell us, at that second party, were there any eyewitness reports of her being there?
Yep, she definitely was there. It was on Broad Place, right down the street like diagonally. If you were standing on my porch, you would just look straight down, and it was right there, Broad Place. You could see it from my house, so it wasn't too far.
Okay. And her friend Kristen, was she at that party as well?
I believe she was. Yep. I'm not sure. I mean, there's talk that she didn't go out that night, that she stayed home. But I know she was definitely with Jen that day. She was with her every day. So I don't believe any of the talk that's gone on. I believe that maybe others were threatened about what had happened, maybe to Jen, and if they had said anything, that the same thing would happen to them. That's what I believe. I believe that they're scared, and I believe that there's more than two people that know.
Do you believe that Jen is still alive?
No, I don't. That took a long time to process. But Jen wasn't the type that would just stay away, and even if she hated her whole entire family, she wouldn't do it. It's not her nature. She was a big family oriented person. Like, she always liked to have gatherings. We always had gatherings. We used to get together because her birthday was on Christmas Day. So we would get together every Christmas Eve and celebrate her birthday to make it special for her, because she kind of had to share it with Christmas, and she kind of hated it, but we made it special and fun, and the whole family would gather at my house, and we'd have just a grand time. Like, my dad would pull out his guitar. He used to be in a band and sing and stuff, play the guitar. So he would grab his guitar and start playing some music, and it was a good time. And then it was weird, because I remember every Christmas after that, being in that house and stuff, we'd still buy her birthday presents. We would still buy her Christmas presents and holidays and stuff like that. It would all be stuffed in the closet, just sitting there waiting for her. And my mom would put, instead of Merry Christmas around the Christmas tree, it would be Happy Birthday, Jen. And it was hard for a long time. Probably I would have to say until 1999, until I had my first baby and started, making my own traditions and my own happiness on that day, because it's just really hard.
So if you don't think Jen is alive, where do you think she is now?
To me, I wholeheartedly believe that she's still in the area somewhere where we used to live, Brockton. I used to go to, all right, so you go down the street and around the corner, and there's McDonald's and Papagino's, where she lived at Papagino's. So we were always there having pizza, and I don't know, she got sick of Papagino's, we went to McDonald's. But anyways, we were always in that area. I used to go to, after she went missing, I used to go down to the bridge right across the street from McDonald's. It's, kind of like, here's Papagino's, and then here's the bridge, and then over here is McDonald's. So it was kind of in the middle. So I picked that spot as my spot to let loose and talk to Jen. And I would, every year on the anniversary of her disappearance, I would bring a purple balloon down. That was her favorite color. And I would write a note, stick it to the balloon, and let the balloon go. I would write, just in case somebody found it that maybe knew something. I don't know. It was just worth a try. And it helped in my own head to kind of let loose from the whole situation. But a couple of years back, when the Fay 5 team got together to do a search for Jen, it was Memorial Day weekend. And the last day of the search, for some reason, we were in that area right near the bridge and all that, McDonald's, and we were searching that whole area. And they had thought, they were looking in that there's this like mucky area. It's kind of like a little bit of water over there. They had thought maybe her remains were in there. And I did too. all these years because we used to hang out down there, and they used to, as teenagers, party down there and stuff like that. It was called the Mutt. So we searched that. But on the last day of the search, it's just weird. This crazy thing happened to me where I was in my van and I was by myself, which normally I would be with my mom, but my stepdad had met us at the search the last day and took my mom home, so I had driven home alone that day. And I was at the set of lights right where the bridge is, and usually I would go straight. I would always go straight to go home back to Rockland. And for some reason, I got in the left lane to take the left over the bridge and go around. And at that red light, I was sitting there waiting and waiting. And all of a sudden, my van started shaking uncontrollably. And I couldn't figure out what was going on. I thought, something's wrong with my van. No lights came on or nothing. I automatically, it just hit me like a ton of bricks. Like somebody had threw me back and was choking me and like had my shoulders pinned down and shaking me. And all I kept thinking was, and hearing in my head was, I'm here, don't leave me, I'm here, like, come and get me, please don't leave. And it was just the weirdest thing that ever happened to me in my entire life. I can't explain it, but I still to this day think that she's there somewhere. I mean, it's been 30 years, so it would only be bones left. So, I mean, where there's water, it could disappear.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's where whatever happened. I get a real strong connection over there, and I always have.
How far is that location from the second party?
If you were walking, it would take you maybe 3 minutes, not even.
Okay. So when Jen didn't come home that night, what was the next step? Did you guys make a phone call to the police?
The next day, yeah. We called all around to her friends and stuff like that. And when we didn't hear anything, that's when we called the police, because she would always, no matter, even if she did run away, it wasn't even like she ran away. She just kind of left home, because she would always keep in contact with us, whether it was with me or my mom or a family member or a friend. Everybody always knew, we always knew where she was. So for them, the police department, to chalk her up as a runaway right away, that was a huge wrong step that they made on their part.
So in this case, they reported her as a runaway. Did they assist?
Yeah.
Within the first few weeks or months? Did they assist with any kind of searches?
Within the first week and a half, they had told us that not to touch anything in her bedroom because they were bringing dogs over to sniff in her room and do a search. Nobody ever showed up. Not one police officer, no dogs, nothing.
After that, what was the next steps that the police took? Did they do any searches maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 years later, or did they still just?
No. Okay. No, we found through the Molly Bish Foundation is how we found we call it the Fay 5 team. Well, it used to be that. It started out with an old private investigator out of Brockton, Phil White. He has since passed, but he worked Jennifer's case from 2004 up until he died in 2011 or 10, maybe he died. It's been a few years now, but he was the best. I mean, I miss him so much. He was like my rock with all of this. He just started everything. I mean, there was Phil, Michelle Littlefield is still on it. That's actually his niece, but she's still on the case. with her husband DJ and Charlie Castro. He's also still on the case. And the only other two that left were Joe and Bob. But they were all great. There was 5 of them to start out with, and now there's 3.
When did they take over the case?
That was in 2004. So it was quite a few years later. Other than that, no, the Brockton Police Department really didn't do much about it. It was kind of like just pushed to the side as a runaway case. Missing and Exploited Children's Alliance, they picked up, I think it was about 6 years after she had gone missing. It was always in the paper. Maureen Boyle, actually from the Brockton Enterprise, she always does the stories for us in the Enterprise newspaper. And Bob Ward from Fox 25, he always does the stories on it. It gets out there. It's just, I think social media getting out is 10 times quicker and better.
It was 1989, so things are much different. But
Oh yeah, definitely.
you've had local news coverage, but many years later. What do you think would have been different had the police reacted quicker and classified her as missing right away?
We would probably know. We wouldn't be sitting here 30 years later with our thumbs up our ass like, what happened?
Right.
It's just ridiculous. It's been 30 years. Like, people don't just drop off the face of the earth. Somebody knows something.
Well, going forward, how can people support you in your search for Jennifer?
Just what I like to do is, we're supposed to do it once a week until we find her, but it's not happening. I don't know why, but whatever. People get busy. Life is life. But every now and then I just throw out something on Facebook that I'll have everybody share about her, like a funny memory, or I'll post songs to her, stuff like that, just to keep the story out there and alive. And I'll just never give up. I'll never give up. I'm never going to stop, not until I'm gone myself.
So what changes would you like to see in the realm of missing person cases? For example, any kind of laws or policies that you'd like to see changed?
Yeah, I would, especially with social media now being such a big thing. You get taken advantage of a lot. Last year, for instance, some person, I don't know if they knew me or if they didn't know me, but they found my mother first, and she doesn't really know about the ins and outs of friend requesting and stuff like that. So she accepted his friend request, and when I accepted it, I only accepted it on my part because I saw him on my mother's. So I thought he was a friend of my stepdad's or hers, or had something to do with my sister's case because he was in a police uniform in the picture, in his profile picture. So I accepted the friend request as well. And it turned out to be this whole big thing where he was basically telling me that my sister was alive and in Mexico, and that she was locked in a cage and she didn't know who she was or where she was because she was drugged up. And that if I wanted her back, I would put $1,000 on an iTunes card and I would get a free ticket to Mexico to go get her back. And when I called the Brockton Police Department, Detective LaGrace is on her case now. He had told me basically straight off the bat that there was nothing that they could do. It wasn't anything to do with Jen's case, that it wasn't his jurisdiction, which to me is all complete bullshit. Excuse my language, but that's just how it is. I mean, they said everything. They were trying to extort me, for one. They said everything about my sister, for two. That's a cold case you're talking about. So these are two different criminal things that happened, and yet there was nothing that nobody could do. I mean, I even called the FBI, to figure out if we could see, you know, who the hell this person was doing this to me. I mean, I went through hell for months over this. I gave my phone information to all the private investigators on our case. I gave it to the Brockton Police Department. I gave it to the FBI. I gave it to Internal Affairs, and nothing was done about what happened. I just still, that boggles my mind. I mean, this person did nothing but talk about my sister's case and try to extort me. It's just ridiculous that with the technology we have nowadays, you can honestly sit there and tell me there's nothing you can do. That's just absolutely ridiculous to me.
I agree with you.
I just want the world to know that I'm never going to give up on her. 30 years, it's coming up on this November, and still to this day, I will get everybody I can together on the day she went missing, November 14th, and I'll be out there with my candles lit all the way up until I put her to rest, and there's nothing going to stop me. I will go to the ends of the earth to find out what has happened. And that's what I would like to tell everybody that's in the same situation. Just never give up. Keep telling that story to everybody, everywhere. Any way you can, get it out there. Just never stop.
How has this impacted your day-to-day life?
That's a big one. Well, I just recently, after years and years of therapy and counseling, I just recently got out. I still have a psychiatrist over this, but she's going to have to stay. I did get some pretty good tools along the way from my last therapy sessions, which is amazing. But yeah, it's impacted my life in a huge way. I don't go out much at all. Like, I'm really scared to drive, to travel. They say now I was just diagnosed with PTSD over this because Jen went out one night and never came back home. So it's like I'm always constant, which I mean is a good thing. I guess in this day and age, you're supposed to always look over your shoulder, but I have been doing that since I was 11 years old. So yeah, I had to grow up really fast. So it basically took my childhood away. I had more responsibilities and options when I was 10 than I did when I was 11, 12, 13. And it got harder as the years went on. My mom always, you know, she tried her best to live a normal life after that, but how can you? I mean, it was hard. I didn't give her a hard time though. I just always knew what she was going through and that it was hard. So I always understood, and I always felt scared too. So yeah, it's impacted my life in a huge way. I'm just now going on 42 years old and finally starting to try to breathe in life and have a good time and get to the bottom of stuff, but in a positive way instead of in an angry way.
If a family has just experienced a missing person and they've found this YouTube video, what would you like them to know? What advice would you give them?
My advice would be contact your local police department right away. Don't stop. Even if they're saying that it could have been this, it could have been that, don't listen. Just go with your gut. Never give up. Always make sure you always keep it out there. Do flyers, do benefits, do fundraisers, do searches. Sometimes people can't always fund a search. You can put your own community get together and do a search. I know a few people have told me throughout the years that They actually got together. Now, I was too young to know this back then, but they actually got together and did group searches for Jen and stuff like that. I had just found this out at her ceremony for the playground, which that was really cool, of the Patriots and Mayor Bill Carpenter. He's awesome. Hope he gets voted in again this year. But yeah, it's just you can't give up. It's really hard and it's frustrating, but I think the more that you work through it, the better you can deal with it as well, because it is horrible. My worst fear inside happens all the time, and it's awful. It's such a bad feeling to have, but it happens. And it is that, you know, when someone comes to me and tells me that they've lost a loved one, and I just want to scream and yell at them and say, well, at least you know where they are. Like, you're lucky to have that, like to go have that peace, to have that closure. It's been 30 years for me. I go insane over it. When I get going on this case, I'm lost. It's ridiculous. It's really hard to get back into reality once I've got going. But yeah, it happens a lot. But I can't help it. I can't give up, and I never will.
And you shouldn't. You're doing the right thing.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, Yvette, I appreciate you talking with me and being on Justice for the Missing. Are there any other pieces of the case that you would like to talk about or add before we say goodbye?
I don't think so. I think pretty much summed it up. There's some video out there of her. So, I mean, if you want to see her bubbly ways, there's some more stuff out there on her. So,
sure. And we'll link your Facebook page for Jennifer down below in the description box so people can find you. But again, thank you so much for being on Justice for the Missing, Yvette.
Thank you so much, Bonnie, for having me. It was nice talking with you.